Krishna is real, and the deity standing on the altar is Krishna. Electricity into a house can either heat or make it cold. It's one energy, and it can manifest in two completely different ways. So Krishna is the master of all energy. He can make matter spirit. He can make spirit matter. It's no problem. Simple thing, electricity, one energy. What is it? Electrizes? Whatever the word is. Electrifies. Brings to life this microphone, yeah, and stand. I was the whole thing. So similarly, the deity, that's Krishna standing there. And when you make a garland with a string, they're trying to save a few flowers. It looks nice in front, but it's hanging on Krishna's neck. Why wouldn't we make a garland if Krishna is real and he's feeling the weight of the garland? Why wouldn't we put flowers here? So, you know, take the extra few seconds and take the few extra flowers. I appreciate the frugality of the affair. But make a nice, so when it rests on Krishna's neck and Radharani's neck and the other deities' neck, it's nice and comfortable. Does that seem a reasonable thing? Okay. Have we harped on that enough? All righty. Hey, Govinda. My father used to say, when I would sit in the doorway, he would say, "You make a better door than a window." Now, you're okay. But if everybody sits on that sill there, how will people walk in the door? I didn't sleep well last night, and my neighbors are quite wild, so if I'm a little grumpy, so be it. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jomunitira Vanatari Jomunitira Vanatari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Chamunitira Vanatari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Puri Vijayacharya Siddhi Shrimad Divine Grace Abhay Charan Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada ki. Ananta Kura Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Nam Charge Lahardas Thakur ki. Prem Shri Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadada Shiva Sari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Gordhan ki. Vrindavan Dham ki. Mathura Dham ki. Dwarka Dham ki. Navadu Dham ki. Chamuna Maya ki. Ganga Maya ki. Tulsi Maharani ki. Bhakti Devi ki. Samveda Bhakta Vrinda ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. Sri Radha Kirti ki. Shri Krishna Sankirtana Jaga ki. Go Premanande. All glories to the Samud devotees. All glories to the Samud devotees. All glories to the Samud devotees. All glories to the Divine Lotus Sita Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Is the other door open too? Good. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It's nice if we say it in the same rhythm. It creates a nice auspiciousness. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Krishna Sadamo Bhagate Dhammaganadi Bisaha Kalaunasa Dashamesha Parano Kododita Narayana Namaskrichadanam Chaivam Narotama Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tatojaya Mudirayat. The Bhagavatam is Brinda's son, is arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied with knowledge, religion, etc. Persons who have lost their vision to the dense darkness in the age of Kali should get light out of this Purana. Before beginning our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, we should first offer respects to the personality of God in Narayan, to the Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, the goddess of living Mother Saraswati, the author Srila Vyasadeva, and my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada. So we are on we just finished the 5th canto, and we're starting the 6th canto, which is blissful. Interesting, we got the cover on. This is interesting. Anyway, so be it. This way? But the text is this way. Just to keep you on your toes. Ah, yes. So now the 5th, that's all right, don't worry about it. The 5th canto is, it contains within it the description of the hellish planets. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that description is enough to make the hair on the head of even a great hero like Hamlet stand on end. It is coming in a horror movie to you soon. And it actually is, because, of course, not for the devotees, but for the materialists, they will be seeing that 5th canto soon enough. So, what is the reaction of after hearing? Because the 5th canto is in the course of, although everything in the Bhagavatam has a purpose, it is in the course of description. One of the qualities of a Purana is it describes the different planetary systems. So it's included in that description of all the different planetary systems, but it does have a purpose. And the purpose is to scare the wits out of us. There, but by the grace of God, go I. And what is the reaction of, because I don't want to, I have a number of things I want to say and I don't want to forget any of them, but what is the reaction of Parikshit Maharaj when he hears about, because this, I'm kind of setting up the chapter, so well, I guess I'll say that, help me get back to the 5th canto, the hellish planets, and Ajamil. And Parikshit Maharaj's question. That's what Parikshit Maharaj's question after hearing the 5th canto. Help me get back to that. But when I was in Boise, I heard an interesting narration or insight from Radhika Ramana Prabhu, who at 16 years old went to Oxford on a scholarship. So he's a smart kid. Smart person. So he said, we were talking about the Bhagavatam as the ripened fruit of the Vedic literature. And we know after Vyasadeva had written all the Vedas and was still feeling unsatisfied. And as he is prone to do at that moment of existential angst amongst a saintly Vaishnava, who appears on the scene? But Narada Muni. And Narada Muni explains, anyone know what Narada Muni's explanation, why Vyasadeva, the deep scholar, the literary incarnation of Krishna himself, does anyone other than Dravida know what was the missing point? The point of dissatisfaction of, Saul knows. Yes, Saul. So what was Narada Muni's explanation of why Vyasadeva was not feeling satisfied?
Because he didn't glorify the Supreme Personality.
He had not glorified the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's close. And you're on fully. Well, he actually hadn't glorified the devotional service of the Supreme Lord, the Bhakti Rasa, because without, as we're going to get into it, without that taste, atonement, karma kanda, jnana kanda, all of those things would not actually relieve the living entity. And here we find the thread of compassion. So the Bhagavatam particularly glorifies devotional service. and as the summum bonum, in fact, the only true efficacy for curing the disease in the material world, because it glorifies and invigorates the living entities to practice devotional service. But there's another feature, which I heard from Radhika Ramana, and he was saying that the Bhagavatam particularly glorifies Krishna's devotees. He gave a number of examples. We don't have time. We'll do that as we move further into the 6th canto. But he gave the example that the Rig Veda, which is considered to be the original first Veda written down by Vyasadeva. Of course, the Vedas are eternal, and they manifest in different sequences and different manifestations, and and how can there be sequential first and second in that which is eternal? Prabhupada answers in the TLC, as soon as there's the sun, there's the sunlight, and yet we can understand that the sun came first. Wrap your mind around that one. You want to think about what's the sound of one hand clapping. So there you go. But the point I'm making is that in the Rig Veda, because Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, and Prabhupada mentions later on in the purports here, but I also have Bhanu Maharaj's translation of Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on the Bhagavatam. And he says that this first chapter of the 6th canto, the 6th canto particularly glorifies different devotees. And the Bhagavatam does that in general. And the 6th canto, we're going to be hearing about Vritasura. And Radhika Ramana gives the example that in the Rig Veda, it also narrates the story of Vritasura. But in the narration in the Rig Veda, Indra is the hero. Indra is the, kills the demon and saves the world. All right, there it is. But as we read through the Vritasura pastimes, we will see that in the Bhagavatam, he's presented almost as a fool. And who is the hero of that run-up with Vritasura and Indra? Yeah, he's, he gets his arm lopped off by Indra's thunderbolt, and he still hits him with his, And then he's saying, because there's a whole reason why he's got a demon body, and it's just better than Shakespeare. But the point is that he's telling him, I'm not this body, and you think you're this and that, and come on, kill me, I don't mind, I liberate. He's preaching like anything to Indra about his whole history and the mistakes he's made, and hey, you're also on the same path of sensual pleasure and becoming enamored, and you think, learn from he just lets him have it. And Vritasura is the hero. So here we're reading the story about Ajamil. This is the first one to set up that mood and tenor, that we're hearing about how he actually becomes saved and how he's actually the hero of the thing. And all's well that ends well because of his base line of devotional service that he remembered. So that's a little setup of where we're going here. We're going to be glorifying Krishna's devotees and what we can learn from them. And back to the example of the end of the 5th canto, the description of the Hellas planets. Parikshit Maharaj, hearing this, his hair is standing up on end, that what is his concern? Does he say, okay, man, where's that flower airplane? I'm getting out of here. I'm going back to Godhead. What is the mood of Parikshit Maharaj? What question does he ask? Yeah, all these people are going into the grinding mill of, and how can they be saved? That's his mood. That's Vaishnava compassion. That's the essence of Vaishnavism, is compassion. Prahlad Maharaj says, I'm saved. They asked Prabhupada, somebody asked Prabhupada about liberation in the airport. That I thought the goal of the Vedas, what is it? Artha, what is it? Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. These are the 4 elements of the Vedic literature. So, they said, are you liberated? And Prabhupada said, yes. So then they asked, well, why are you still here? And Prabhupada gave an interesting answer. Prabhupada was sitting in an airport, and he said, just like I have a ticket. Now, I'm not in Chicago. I have a ticket from LA to Chicago. I have a ticket to Chicago. I'm not in Chicago yet. But because I have the ticket, I mean, now things are a little funky, but because I have the ticket, I'm pretty much guaranteed that they're going to get me to Chicago. Plane may be delayed. I may go via Alaska, but they'll get me there, you know, because I got a ticket. So in the same way, because we're engaged in Krishna's service, because we're chanting His holy name, we will go back to Godhead. What is the difference between a green mango and a ripe mango? Okay, you can tell me taste, you can tell me color, okay, fine, fine, fine. But in the essence of the thing, what is the difference between a green mango and a ripe mango? You can say one's sweeter than, okay, fine, fine, fine. But help me out here. Time. It's only a matter, as long as it stays connected to the tree, it's only a matter of time, and it's going to get nice and succulent, especially if it's an Alfonso mango, or a mango from Merida in South Mexico. There's this stiff competition for a Alfonso mango. So the point I'm trying to make is that in this first section, we're going to be, I think it's 3 or 4 chapters about a Jamil. And the Vishnu Dutas and the Yama Dutas and all this. Don't let me forget that I want to close with that these things are real. And I will give you a modern day narration of the Yama Dutas. Narrated to me by a man on a hospital bed, a man who lives right here in San Diego. I don't want to embarrass him by mentioning his name. But if you doubt it, you can talk to him. I'll give you his name. But the point is that So Maharaj Pariksit answers, what if this is, just imagine for a moment ourselves, because we've just finished the 5th canto, now we're going in, so I'm going to spend a little time on a sort of a transitional framing. What if it's all real? I mean, wouldn't you be scared witless after you heard about the 5th canto and everybody's going right into the, you know, picture the big, you know, grinding and all the gears, and the living entity is going to be ground into, you know, who knows. Nitya Bada, there's Nitya Siddha, which means eternally liberated. Nitya Bada. Nitya Bada means not that they're actually eternally liberated, I mean eternally conditioned, but it means that you're conditioned so long that you cannot even conceive of when it started. So we've been strapped and grist for Maya's mill for who knows how long. It's impossible even to imagine. So it is a tough, we're in a tough, tough spot. And I was thinking about it. I remember when I was a kid reading Greek mythology. And you know, what is it, the Iliad and the Odyssey? And the Ramayana is longer than the Iliad and the Odyssey, and it is an older and longer and more sophisticated epic than We're going to swap this out. All righty. Thank you, Prabhu. So the Iliad and the Odyssey, he's returning from, and don't worry, we're going to get to a point. He's returning from the 10 years long Trojan War, launched by Paris stealing, who did he steal? Helena. Yeah, that's where lust will get you. And the storyline is that he's blown off course by, I think, Zeus. I forget who blows him off course, but he's blown off course. And I remember thinking, well, that's a simplistic, like the American Indians were simplistic, or, you know, primitive people, that they personify natural forces, that behind the wind is a person. And I was, well, that's why it's called mythology, because it's all symbolism and you know, anthropomorphic viewing of nature's forces, making a persons. But the truth is, what made me think about this is there was an ant crawling on my Bhagavatam last night when I was reading last night. And I didn't want to hurt it. I figured, well, what's this? I could brush it away with a cloth, but I thought that might, you know, mess him up. So what did I do? I just, whew, flew off my desk, and he landed on the floor. And I'm sure that that little ant is, what the hey just happened? Where am I? You know. Yeah. So I was thinking like it's Odysseus. I think Odysseus is the hero of the Iliad and the Odyssey. So he was blown off course for 10 years. But the fact of the matter is, in other words, they're saying that the forces of nature, personifying them, is for unscientific, sentimental people. Oh, sure, you don't understand the behind. There's the current, and there's the Gulf Stream, and the ionosphere, and, wherever they're going with the thing, So therefore, they're thinking there's a person behind it. But they've got it backwards. If you're sophisticated, the ant thinks, the wind blew me. I don't know. He doesn't know what happened to him, But behind that is me, a person. But we're thinking we're at the top of the pyramid. We're thinking man is the measure of all things, and we're on everything. We're looking down, and we've got it all. We can break it all down to small pieces. Look what we've done with the laws of physics, the laws of chemistry, the laws, and we're on top of it, and we've got it all. All the building blocks are subordinate to our intellect. Why? Why is that assumption valid? If the ant assumes that all experience is subordinate to my comprehension, is that a reasonable position for the ant to take? Is that reasonable? No. The little ant thinks it's moving forward on a potter wheel. That example is given also in the 5th canto. He thinks he's marching forward on the potting wheel. Potter's wheel, the potter's wheel is turning this way, and he thinks he's moving this way. He's actually going backwards. It's a retrograde. But he thinks, hey, I'm cruising along, I'm making progress. But he's going backwards, So we are just like ants. I don't mean to infuse you with creatureliness and a feeling of, low self-esteem. That's not the point here, because we're all spirit soul. But currently we're in a small corner. It's a dark corner of the creation. It's so dark, it's like if you're in a dark closet and you got to hang a light in it. There's the sun, the moon. Otherwise, this is a dark place. And we're in a small corner of it. In Kali Yuga, we're locked down so we can't do too much damage to the rest of the universe. Every now and then we set a little beep, beep, beep on the sky, and the demigods slap it around and send it back. But, so, what if it's all true? And what if there are the 5th canto and the hellish planets and the living entities going up? And what is Prabhupada's example, like the dunking stool, the original waterboarding? You hold them under the water, and just before their lungs burst, you lift them out. It's a terrifying experience. And I don't know, according to the fine or the crime, you get dunked a certain amount of time. It's a horrible experience. But sometimes we're up, sometimes we're down. That's our position. So, if it's true, we know it's true. If one actually comes to the realization that it's true, and one knows, I have a bona fide spiritual master, I'm in a bona fide parampara, I'm engaging the service of Krishna and the Vaishnavas. Okay, I'm getting out of here, only time is separating me, like a green mango and a ripe mango. Then the Vaishnav mood is, what about these other people? I think it's a law in America, it's called the Good Samaritan Law. If you're a doctor or a first responder, and you drive past a car accident and no one else is there to help, you can be fined or penalized. It's called the Good Samaritan Law. You got to stop and help. So we're just cruising. Hey, I got Burfi, I got Radha Giridhar, I'm going back to Godhead. See you later. In Revelations, I don't want to pick on anybody because there's many good things we can learn from the Christians. But in Revelations, it's described that to get the full package of being in heaven, it's not enough. What is it? What is that? I can never remember the German word. It means taking pleasure. Yeah, Schadenfreude. To take happiness in other people's distress. It's not enough to be successful yourself. You got to be able to drive by in your Mercedes and splash mud on your former, competitors out there selling pencils in a cup or whatever, Then you got the full experience, So at the same, they're in heaven. You read Revelations. They're in heaven, and they're sitting on the right hand of God. And what are they hearing? The wailing and gnashing of teeth of people in hell. And they have to drop their cigar ashes on them. It's all working out. Well, tough luck, buddy. turn or burn. So, you know, what? What is that all about? So the Vaishnav, immediately they think, no, 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 no. We got to go there and help these people. So we will see that in the conversation. So Narada Muni. Okay, so there's that setup, that's one of the themes that goes through this sixth canto. It goes throughout the entire Bhagavatam. It goes throughout all the teachings of the Goswamis and reaches its apex in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that this deep compassion for the suffering conditioned souls. I'm saved, let me save them. Now, when Maharaj Parikshit, naturally as a Vaishnava par excellence, when he asks this, how will these people be saved? Just to test him, does anyone know, other than Dravida Prabhu, and other than Balaram, and other than Vijay, we'll just go down the list here, does anyone know what was Shukadev's first answer? How will they become free from their sinful reactions? Okay. Yes, Dravida?
Yes, by atonement.
By atonement. Atonement means you make a mistake and you compensate for it. You know, and the Vedas are full of that. If you do this, then you do that. How do you compensate? How is it? You know, you like a debit sheet. You know, negative plus. Okay, I did four negatives. I got to do Christian. What you confess? Well, how many Hail Marys and how many? You know, what do I have to do here to balance the sheet? But what's the problem with that? Because we have Ajamil, who was performing he was a Paka Brahmin. He was born in a Brahmin family. He knew all the samskaras. He knew all the, prayashchitas. He knew the whole game. He could game the system. Pull the lever, pull the crank. Have to put a little salt and pepper in, mix it up, and it'll all come out, balance out. Atonement. What is atonement compared to? An elephant. Why? It's got a long neck, long trunk. Why? He's got it. Government's got it. Go ahead. And I've seen this. If you ever go to Jaipur and you go to Man Singh's palace, which I highly recommend. What? Is this tourism of India? Because Man Singh was the Emperor Akbar's head of his army. And if you don't keep an army busy, they'll start scheming against you, and they'll revolt. They do all kinds. You got to keep them busy. Idle mind is the devil's workshop. If you're ever an emperor and you ever got an army, keep them busy. So he engaged them because Man Singh was a disciple of Raghunath Das Goswami, and he was engaged in building the Govinda Dev Mandir, Rupa Goswami's for Govinda Dev, which is considered the apex of Vaishnava architecture in India. Actually, it's the apex of architecture. Kept the army. So we got off on Man Singh. So if you go to see Man Singh's palace, I could give a whole class on him because he did many wonderful things in Krishna's service. He protected the deities, so many things. You can take an elephant up, and you can see the elephants. They bathe in the water, and they get nice, and they're all scrubbed. You got the guy down there with a brush. What do they call it? Mahout? What are they called? Yeah. Scrubbing the thing. You saw it when we were there. And sure enough, as soon as the thing gets outside, it's throwing dust all over him, and like that. So they actually do it. So what is the use? You take a bath and you throw dirt on yourself. Atonement does not cleanse the heart. What actually cleansed the heart? I was reading in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Haridas Thakur says that namabas, that's not pure chanting, but it's offenseless chanting. And it can be innocent because Ajamil, at the time of death, called out the name of his beloved son. He saw the Yamadutas coming, and that will scare you witless. We'll get a description, a graphic description. I think Krishna's saving this for a Vaishnav horror movie. Someday the fifth canto, like the Ramayana has not been made into an epic, and I think Krishna is saving it so it will be told properly. I mean, the Bhagavatam is. They got that Marvel series, so many things come out of it, the comic books. Wait till they come out with the Bhagavatam with the real deal. So they're terrifying. And I'll tell you, what time is it? Oh, geez. So atonement doesn't do the job. It doesn't purify the heart. Because the root of the whole thing, whether you practice, you're a great yogi or a great jnani or you're a karmakandi and you know how to do all the proper, King Nriga in Bhagavata, in the Krishna, well, 10th canto Bhagavatam, but in the Krishna book, he was an expert at manipulating all the levers and acting properly and being pious and good. How did that turn out? Did that work out okay? What happened to King Nriga? Anyone know, other than our usual crew? He became a lizard. Did it work out so well? Well, we'll get there in a minute. But the point is, what it takes, the Ajamil story is a pastime, lila, historical narration, is explaining that atonement alone will not do it. First off, you want to get out. You're heading. Jonathan Edwards was a famous Christian preacher of early America. He was so powerful. He's the one who came up with hellfire and brimstone. He said, we are hanging on a spider's thread over hell's fires. He gave descriptions that were so terrifying, people would pass out in church. You do a Google on it, Jonathan Edwards. He was one spooky fellow. Scary fellow. Scared them, put the fear of God in them. He may have come up with that. As a sidelight, because I checked him out, he gave a sermon one time about a organ of the body, and this isn't going where you think it is, that gets us into so much trouble and is the root of all of our problems. He had people sitting on the edge of the chair, and he said, do you want me to show it to you? I will show it to you. Women, oh, please don't, And he stuck out his tongue, because the tongue is what gets us into so much trouble. The tongue is actually, because from tongue, it's described in the Upadeshamrita, it all runs in a line, And if you can control your tongue, then eventually everything can become controlled. And anyway. So he was a very powerful preacher. And he used to scare people witless. But the problem with that is, Machiavelli, the great politician from Italy, said that if you could, he was instructing about how it's interesting, and we won't go into it, but his whole book, little book on politics for kings and princes, is that fear, you control people by fear. Fear is a much stronger motivator than the noble ethics. But the thing he says at the very end is if you control somebody by fear, you will control them until you die. If you control them by love, you'll control them permanently. That actually winning people's hearts, that's the ultimate goal of the thing. So the point I'm trying to make is if you control people by fear, they will, God sees, God's watching. It's like Santa Claus, he knows when you've been good and he knows when you've been bad. And you're going to go to the hellish planets if you step out of line, buddy. So, all right, I know he's looking. I really want to call that girl on the phone and ditch my wife, but hey, God's looking. And I don't want to go to the hellish planets. So I'll stay the straight and narrow. They say if God didn't exist, we'd have to create him. Otherwise, there'd be no morality. So, but the point is that doesn't change the heart. The point I'm trying to make is atonement is so Maharaj Parikshit rejects atonement. Says it's not working. Well, as long as I got him in a headlock, okay. We had a guy who showed up one time from Utah, and he was about 30 and a little worn for time, and he had this beautiful young thing with him. She couldn't have been more than 18 years old, and they wanted to spend the night at the temple. And they were going to get married. They were going to Mexico to get married. Immediately a bell went off. I thought, something's fishy here. And then he would say, tell him you love me. Oh, I love him. Something just didn't add up. So we let them spend the night because I thought something's fishy. So I let them spend the night, and I was worried about the girl. So I called Charu in Utah. And Charu said, that maniac, he's got her at gunpoint, and he's kidnapped the girl and taken her to Mexico. So it's a whole so we had to call the local FBI came, and we got a pat on the back for that one. And they tackled the guy Dharma Sage was here. The guy went to the roof of the building, and they were here. Come down. I'm gonna jump. It was a whole scene. Dharma Sage and I went up and tackled the guy. It's life as a temple president. He almost took me over the. It was whatever it is, 40 years ago. So. Oh, Krishna. But the point is that while he had her by gunpoint, she was murmuring sweet, loving adieus. But as soon as that gun was down, man, she bolted for the door. And rightly so. So unless the heart is changed, one cannot be delivered from this world. So that's one of the themes from the Ajamil story. I pulled out about 7 of them, different things we can learn. So we got one done. But on one hand, it's the most important. I'll use my next few minutes. Because, and it's always been kind of a mystery to me how it works. Because sometimes Prabhupada says that Ajamil, when he called Narayan, he was not calling the Supreme Lord. He was calling his son. But just because A equals B and B equals C, A equals C, 2 things equal to the same thing are equal to each other. So because he was calling out Krishna's name innocently, he got the benefit. But if you read in the CC, as I was doing last night, it's explained that, Prabhupada explains elaborately, that Haridas Thakur is saying that one can be delivered by namabas, which is offenseless chanting. It's not pure chanting, but it's not offensive chanting. And Prabhupada says that the thing is that if you are not committing offenses, one becomes purified by namabas, or non-offensive chanting. One attracts the mercy of the Lord, is the way Prabhupada says it, by namabas. And that by that mercy of the Lord, then the Vishnu Dutas interceded. Everything came like dominoes from that. So the point is that unless the heart, and Ajamil did not immediately go back to Godhead. The Vishnu Duta, the Yamadutas were the agents of Lord Yamaraj, the agents of death, about to drag him off to the 5th canto hellish planets. That was averted because he'd attracted the mercies of the Lord by namabas, unoffensive chanting. But his heart wasn't completely pure. Because I remember I said the theme of this chapter is Krishna's special mercy of this canto, is Krishna's special mercy on the devotees. So here's Ajamil, rightly abandoned his old parents, gave up his chaste wife. I mean, he really robbed people. He really dug himself into a big hole. But because of simply, unoffensively chanting the Lord, he attracted Krishna's mercy. And Krishna sent the Vishnu Dutas to save him. So the takeaway from this, what is the takeaway from this? Hey, I can do any damn thing and it'll all work out. Hey, as long as I got tilak and neck beads, I'm cruising, because Krishna's going to save me. What does it prove? It proves that Krishna is so kind, by his holy name we will be delivered. As long as we keep chanting and avoid the offenses and work to purify our heart, that chanting will deliver us. Guaranteed. And that's one of the reasons that we've got the story of the Ajamil story. And he had to, Prabhupada, the famous example, and they think, I've been saved by Jesus. Inshallah, as long as I'm doing my 5 prayers a day, I'm okay. 5 a day, I'm okay. But we have the story of Krishna, and we'll end here. I'll tell this, and then I want to tell the Yamaduta story, and then we'll be done. We have the example of the Jamal and Arjuna. We have the example of Damodar, of when Mother Yasoda bound Krishna. Now, what was the issue? to capture Krishna. What was the problem? She didn't have enough rope. The rope was how much, there's an exact measurement given in the Bhagavatam. The rope was how short, other than Dravida? It was 2 fingers. Inches we also use, but actually the Bhagavatam says 2 fingers. It's actually 2 fingers short. You need that 2 fingers more rope to capture Krishna. Krishna's a Jita, he can't be conquered, but you need those 2 fingers. Now, those 2 fingers, Rupa Goswami points out, if you look at those 2 fingers are our own effort and the Lord's mercy. If you want to capture Krishna, it's the combination. Jesus said, the Bible says you're not saved by works alone. Doesn't mean you're not saved by works. It says you're not saved by works alone. Read the full version. A devotee told me one time, it's all in the punctuation. Krishna says, what is it about sex I am? What is that? What is the English of the word? I am sex, which is not against religious principles. Well, you just put the right punctuation there. I am sex, which is not against religious principles. No, that's not what it says. You know? So you're not saved by works alone. Doesn't mean you're not saved by works. It means works are necessary. Acting according to the laws and rules and regulations and acting according to the Sermon on the Mount. You're supposed to act that way. But that alone will not do it. You also need the mercy of the Lord. You need the 2. So works has to be there, and ultimately we're dependent on the mercy of the Lord. Now, Rupa Goswami says these 2 fingers. One is I won't say which one, you can figure that. Well, I should say which one. This is our works. And this is the mercy of the Lord. Now, what will you note about these 2 fingers? They're not the same length. Which one is longer? This one is longer. So works are there, but ultimately the longer finger, of the 2 ingredients, the mercy of the Lord is predominant. So this chapter about Ajamil is explaining, because he was chanting Namabas not offensively, he attracted over time, Prabhupada says over time, for the life of the boy, Narayan, 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 over the life of the boy, he attracted, that Namabas attracted the mercy of the Lord. And therefore the Vishnu Dutas appeared, and he was delivered, and it has a very happy ending. So we should carefully chant our japa, and know that alone, the chanting of the holy name, is the mercy of the Lord and will save us. So that's one thing we can learn from Ajami. We'll do more next time I give class. Now, I will not mention his name because I don't want to embarrass him. There was a gentleman who comes to the temple. I don't want to say too much because I want to give him away because I don't want to embarrass him. And he was a nice person, pious person, used to come to the temple. If we ever had a meeting, planning a festival, whatever we were doing, he would always come and complain. Well, people won't give a donation till you have more parking. They'll never give a donation if you... The bathroom wasn't clean last week. Who's going to give money till you have the bath? He's always a real wet blanket. And I don't want to say too much of where he was born, but he was very proud of being a Brahmin. I'm born in a such and such Brahminical family, and more or less you're all white monkeys. So, okay, fine, whatever. And he was his big donation was John Mostam. He gave $100, but he came every Sunday and would take prasadam for free. He was a lost leader? We lost money on this fellow. Not that that's he was taking prasadam and it was all good and we're, Hare Krishna, we're happy. Except our treasurer. So, I got a call one day from his wife and said, Mr. X has had aneurysm, a blood vessel popped in it. It's probably called cerebral thrombosis, You learn everything if you read the Bhagavatam. Boom, popped. And he was in the hospital, and he was in a coma. Okay, so we went to see this fellow you know, we're out and about anyway, and he used to come to, and his wife was a very nice devotee. So we would go by and just chant, or maybe read, you know, somebody's in there, so we'll just read a little Gita and just, you know, do our duty as Vaishnavas, try to help the poor fellow. This went on for about 3 months. And then one day I got an excited, almost panicked call from the wife. He's awake. He's awake. But he won't speak to anybody but you. Now, the doctor, by the way, the doctor was a hardcore reductionist materialist. The doctor had told me, why is everybody chanting? He's brain dead. Talk about a bedside manner, you know. I said, look, you know, at least give people some hope, you know, and you never know. He said, listen, he might come out of it, you know. They said, it'll take a miracle. You know, within earshot of the family. I thought, well, who is this guy, you know, Dr. Grimm? So, anyway, this man, I avoided him to keep almost say his name. He woke up, and he wouldn't talk to anybody but me, because I was the president of the temple at the time. So I went to see him. I thought, finally, he's going to put us in his will. Prakash is going to pay off, you know. I mean, Hare Krishna. I'm joking a bit. So we went to see him. And as soon as he walked in the door, he said, they came. They came. The nurses said, yeah, he flatlined 3 times. We had to do the paddles and the whole thing. He said, no. They came. They came. His intellectually challenged relatives said, oh yeah, we came and he was in the ICU unit, and then the next time he came, they put him in the chronic care, and yeah, we came 3 times, couldn't find him. By this time, Prakash is wearing thin. No. So I said, oh, the Vishnu Dutas? By this time he said, no. He said, the bad people. So the Yamadutas, he said, oh, Badri, it was horrible. He said they had dogs, they had whips. He said they had teeth. He said, oh, he was, you know. He had seen the Yama, he's chains. He said, oh, and they were saying, we're coming for you. They taunted him. They didn't just snatch him. They taunted him, you know. So he said they came once, he was just freaked to his bones. And then they went away. He said then they came back again, and they taunted him. And then they went away. Now I should mention that his very nature, like the nature of sugar is to be sweet or the nature of fire to be fiery, he was a little bit cantankerous, this fellow. That was just his nature. They came the 3rd time. He said, take me or leave me. I am a devotee of Radha Giridhari, and my wife is their devotee. And they went away and never came back, and whoop, this man came out of his coma. He remembered Radha Giridhari, he took shelter of their lotus feet, and he made the declaration that my wife is a devotee of Radha Giridhari. And at that point, it's like they got the message. They saw the dog collar and the dog catcher doesn't take you. They said, oh, he's a devotee of Radha Giridhari. Nope, he's not for us. And you'll hear that later on, the Vishnu to say, you can't take a devotee of Krishna. You know, move along, you know. So and this, I can tell you, as a fact, he has become humble, he's become gentle. Now remember, he was born in a Brahmin family and we were all white monkeys. He straightens the shoes on Sunday when he comes. I don't think he can come anymore. You know, he was old, you know, now he's in his 80s or whatever. He used to straighten all the shoes of all the guests. He would, you know, I'd ask him anything, you know. I never did. I could have asked him to clean those bathrooms. He would have been in there with a toothbrush. He literally was a changed man by seeing the Yamadutas and by Radha. He knew it simply because he'd remembered Radha Giridhari. He had been saved from the Yamadutas. So Bhagavatam is real, and there's many things we can learn from it. I've just shared a few, and we'll pick up more next time I give class. Thank you very much, Prabhu. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. What's that? Oh, jeez. I hope I didn't. I didn't say anything to offend anybody. Oh, Govinda.